So we're going to start it off with the Israel-Palestine conflict a little bit because that seems to be like a trendy thing, and we didn't get into it last time, but we kind of like touched on it, so I guess let's dive into it this time. Personally, I don't know about y'all, but I don't really want to dive too much into it because I don't really know exactly like specifics on it. I just know that Hamas shot at Israel. Israel's Iron Dome got put into effect, and the pictures from that are crazy. I got this one right here where you see them shooting down 2 missiles, which looks kind of cool, I'm not going to lie. So I don't know how do y'all feel about it? Like,
honestly speaking, obviously I don't want to send troops. I don't want us to really have anything to do with it.
I mean, it comes back to Armageddon. You say we were talking about the China thing. It's like,
but we have a large part to play in why they are fighting. So I don't know. I'm a little torn, and then also it's in our best interest. I'm really torn because it's in our best interest to protect Israel. Because we do need that fortification in the Middle East.
That's our foot in the Middle East. Yep.
Foot in the Middle East, but it's like almost like a little bit of recency bias too, because it's like technically, okay, I guess the Hamas started this one, but like they've been warring for almost 100 years now.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Before we were born.
And like the start of it was their land being taken away. So it's like, who's the bad guy? Who's the good? There's just so much time has passed that good and bad has become subjective. There's no real, you know what I'm saying? It's all based on personal. Like, are you more mad about the land, or are you more mad about 100 years later you're sending missiles into, you know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, it just seems like all over the world, though, like Muslims are getting the short end of the stick. Even in the Uyghurs, they're Muslim. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. The pictures look cool. I wish they would stop. But as far as the Iron Dome, that shit look crazy because it looks like literal wires being shot from the building. I mean, I know it's the jet fuel or whatever from the missiles, but it's just the aesthetic of it looks really cool.
I just think the technology behind it is crazy. They're tracking the missile, and the missile's able to pinpoint its location to blow it up in the air before it lands. That is insane.
It's like I saw a little documentary on it. It's like a 3-stage process. So one, it locates where the missile's firing from, and it tries to sever the connection there while the missile's still in the silo. 2, it tries to detect and like deter the missile to make it like go left when it's supposed to go to its target, and like maybe rear off into like a non-populated area. And then 3, it fires a counter missile to break it in the air.
I wonder how much the breakdown is. Like how much shrapnel actually.
It's crazy.
It's kind of impressive, dude. Like, I wonder if we have similar technology or better.
Well, part of America's dealings with Israel is this technology, because Israel's weird in the sense that like they fight everyone around them, and so they've developed a lot of countermeasures, a lot of counterintelligence, a lot of survival technology like this for when this stuff happens, and so like. We trade this stuff with them, like these details, this weaponry. So we have it too, but honestly, thanks to them.
I guess my only thing with this is, like, I understand what John said. Like, we kind of started this, but
like, are y'all going to boot up?
Yeah,
like,
the same argument you had against Doc and I were talking about the Uyghurs thing. Like, are we willing to suit up and actually go and?
I don't know. I don't know if we'll suit up.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to get to is like, should we go and intervene or not?
Honestly speaking, there is no if we intervened, it would have to be peacefully because Israel's the big gun here. So it's not even like they would need help from a strip of land. They don't even have a country for real. It's a strip of land. It's a strip.
Yeah.
So it's just like
Israel can do it. It's just kind of everyone right now is like
Israel's not
in this
killing
weird
them on purpose.
State where they're arguing whether or not they should defend the underdog, which is the Palestinians, or back Israel.
I've seen a lot of pro-Palestinian stuff going around.
100%. Nobody likes the underdog anymore. I mean, nobody likes the big dog.
Dude, it's complicated as hell though, because
I
read into it and like I got down to the specifics, and it's like a lot of stuff, man. It's conflict. Like I don't think there's like a right or wrong side. I think it's just conflict.
100%.
Like it's just there's so much history and bad blood between these people.
And it's religious.
That they are experiencing a lot. Like
They believe they have claim to the promised land. Yeah.
yeah, they both do, and they're
do.
both not willing to back down from it too. So like the Jews were there in that land originally, and then they went through their history and like the Exoduses and stuff like that, and like the Egyptian like conquests of them and slavery, which led to the Bible Exodus. And then they went to the rest of the world where they're like, yeah, okay, like after leaving Egypt, we're gonna go and live in the rest of the planet. And then they experienced World War II and the Holocaust. And after the Holocaust, at that time, the Palestinians still owned that region of land, but Britain had occupied it during World War II, and I think even before, I think it might have been a colony. But after World War II, Britain backed out, and when we were working with them, uh, okay, no, they actually Britain backed out in World War One when they owned it as a colony, and they gave it back to them. And then after World War II, when the land was also returned after the conflict in that area, the United Nations discussed what to do with all the displaced Jews from the Holocaust that had been kept in camps and basically captured by the Germans and brought into like piles and piles of concentration camps and stuff like that. And even the European Germans, European Jewish people that had survived it, they were completely displaced. So what they did was they fucked up. They promised the Palestinians that they would give them a state, and they also promised the Jews that they would give them a state.
Why do we always gotta be like the world? I don't even know what to call it.
Guess who was the leading country in the world?
Well, I mean, you had millions of refugees from the Holocaust. Like, you had to do something with these people.
I understand. Yeah.
And honestly, those people just said, "We want our own country." And like, honestly, the world, because of the Holocaust, they were just like, "Fuck!" Like, we feel bad. Like, we should give you your own country. And so they asked for their original homeland, and the homeland was technically up, but not also technically, because the Palestinians live there now. So like, even though they had left earlier, like people now lived there. So Britain, because they were like, well, it used to be our colony, what we'll do is we'll give you our portion, and the Palestinians can keep the other portion. And that's the way it went down. So Israel used to be actually half as big as it is now, and one side was Palestinian and one side was Jewish. Then the Palestinians who were living on the Jewish side got pissed because they were like, this isn't right. Like, this isn't your land anymore. We're here now. And they couldn't do anything because the United Nations just said, like, no, this is Israel now. So they actually have a holiday where they remember that half of the land was taken away. Like, every year, it's called like Akbak or something like that, but they like remember it. And they basically committed to their memory that like they need to take it back. And over the years, progressions, like every 50 years, they would just enter a new war with each other about this stuff. The Jewish community would fight the Palestinian community because of the land and the separation and stuff like that. And in like 150 years of combat like this, what ended up happening was the Jewish people retook the rest of the Palestinian territory to the point to where they only have 25 miles. That is the Gaza Strip now.
25 miles of land.
And so at this point,
so
wasn't that sanctioned by the UN too? Like, wasn't the strip itself sanctioned by the UN to the point where it was almost like to protect the Palestinians? Like, you can't take them off this strip of land, because it just seems like they've always had the ability to just kind of press the kill button. And it's almost like you're toying with them at a certain point. You want to say something?
No, I lost the thought, honestly.
Well, yeah, the Palestinians are basically like since like 1968, when they lost that war and they lost like another chunk of their country, they're now left to the 25 miles that is the Gaza Strip. And there are still militants in there. There's still people that like believe in the dream of taking back all of Israel. And that's the Hamas group right now, which is in conflict. And so the reason why Hamas like went off is because essentially a now right-leaning government formed in Israel, and all the representatives are all right-leaning, so they're all conservatives, and they all want to like double down on how Jewish Israel is. So they're actually evicting a lot of people that are Palestinian that live in Greater Israel. And some of them are being evicted like without like laws. Like, they're not given like the 2-week notice and stuff like that. They're just like being kicked out. They're just being displaced.
I don't like that.
And then so the Palestinians were like, you can't do that. Like even if that's not our territory anymore, like those people are living by your laws, and you're just kicking them out because they're Palestinian. And then that's when Hamas got pissed and fired the first rockets, and then Israel started firing the rockets back, and now they're fighting, and Hamas has already like come out saying like, all right, fine, we'll stop firing rockets, and Israel's like, no, like you started this, no, we're gonna finish it. And they're basically like on the mentality of like, we're gonna set you back to the Stone Age, because the ambassador that came out talking about it said that they're basically going to reset Hamas far enough that they what did he say? We're assured peace for years. So they're basically on like just a war path at this point.
Oh wow. See, this is why I don't really like. I don't want to talk about this really, cause like, man.
Information, dog.
Yeah, it's just messed up. Like
it's messed up.
Like, when I look at it, I was like, I don't know who's right, I don't know who's wrong. It's just conflict all around.
I just don't know how to feel about it. Like, I'm not trying to be pro-Palestinian or pro-Israel. It's just clearly, like we said, we started this. It's been going on for years, and we had some influence in it. You explained it a little bit. I don't think it was malicious influence. I really don't know the nuances of the continued influence we've had over there.
It wasn't malicious, but America doesn't do anything without,
Yeah, I know.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, you're going to be here? Let's just always be cool forever.
I think a lot of people right now are just trying to stop like ethnic cleansing.
100%.
Because it seems that way. Like it seems that like because those people are backed into a corner, the Jewish or like the government of Israel is just like, we can wipe them out and we can just be done with this. And so everyone's like, dude, don't do that. Like that's fucked up. Like you can't do that. Even though physically and the reality is they're in full capability of doing it. They've already cut off the transports for aid into Gaza. Because if you see on the map where Gaza is, Gaza's against the ocean, and then it's like all Israel before you get to the neighboring countries. So you have to go through Israel to get to Gaza. There's only like a short route from Egypt to Gaza. And so if Israel wants to cut off Gaza and siege it, yeah, they can starve those people to death if they wanted to, because the port is completely controlled by Israeli Navy. And they can just lock the people in that city and just wait till they die. So I think that's why everyone's just like, dude, you might be going a little too far. Like,
it's 25 miles, dude. They can take that shit anytime they fucking want to. And they're just waiting for the excuse. I mean, that's what any other country would do. If you see a threat, you feel a threat's close enough to you, regardless of, right or wrong.
Try to be proactive. I guess my only comment, I kind of got into this with John a little bit before we started the podcast, was just, I just don't like the clout chasing going on within America. Like, I feel like I said this before and I still believe this, I feel like it's similar to the whole black square when it comes to Black Lives Matter thing. Post your black square on Instagram if you support the Black Lives Matter movement and blah, blah, blah. It's just right now, so Palestine thing, like people are showing like whatever the people are saying about Palestine, blah, 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 the flags, and we're even talking about some hate crimes going on in California. I think even said New York going on against Jews. It's like, why are we letting this influence us here? Like, yeah, it's bad. Clearly we just went over it. Like, I'm not trying to say it's good, blah, 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 but like, why are we letting it affect us here? Why are we, I don't know. I just feel like America loves
to the black
to
square
be heard.
Thing, to the black square thing, the only reason why, in my opinion, it's not equatable, there were two different ways to approach the black square. One was post the black square and not use your social media for the rest of the day to show black people's impact on social media usage. And then the other was post pro-black information, as in first black inventor did this, look up this and that and this and that. So there was information either being passed or a point being made. It was unorganized. I believe there should have been 1 point being made instead of 2. But when you're talking about, like, for example, I brought up Kyrie Irving coming up and saying, oh, there's more important things to talk about after a basketball game than, his basketball game. My boy, what are you going to do for Israel or Palestine? Like, what can you do? Like, the attention, you think people don't know that missiles are going? Like, do you think nobody else cares? And so I agree with Gene. There's a lot of virtual signaling. And People are pretending to care more than they do. Yes, it sounds sad. Yes, it is sad. But just because something is sad, they're trying to claim the sadness from the issue and make it their own. And so now I either need empathy, sympathy, or follow my lead. There's some type of thing that I now need as a response to me saying I don't agree with what's going on in the Middle East. It doesn't end at me saying it. I need a response. And so I need a like, I need a retweet, I need a share, I need people to reach out in my DMs and say I'm doing something good. You know what I'm saying? But there's a thing that's needed, and that's not normally how doing good really works. So I completely agree with Gene.
I just never liked the social media stuff. Like some of it, when it's genuine, I have nothing to say about it. But if it feels any inkling of disingenuous, I just don't like it.
But
not saying that the black square thing wasn't genuine. It's just some people, like, they didn't do the black information thing.
mm-hmm.
They didn't stop using their social media after they posted the square. They just posted the square. It's like, 100%. You just want to, like we said, you just want to clout chase. You just want to be part of the movement, 100%. Part of it, but you really don't care.
But that goes back to one of our other conversations too.
I also think it's really interesting in the sense that, like, you're seeing that with companies a lot.
100%.
So the movement jump on, I think it's popular in the United States, but it's less so popular when it comes to, like, larger conflict or deeper conflict, I would say, because it's harder to what's the word I'm looking for? It's harder to be right.
Yeah, it's hard to
navigate.
What I mean?
Like with that company that I was telling you about, IGN, they're like an internet gaming news channel. It's all about gaming journalism. They have an Israel division. And so the US division posted all this pro-Palestinian stuff, and the Israel division was like, "What the fuck, dude? Like, how can you do that? Like, you're the headquarters site, and all of a sudden you're against our enemy." And then the US division immediately took down all of that stuff because not against our enemy, but all of a sudden along, like, on the side of our enemy. So the U.S. division immediately took down all that stuff and realized, like, oh crap, like, this is actually complicated.
This is actually complicated.
You're absolutely right. No, you're absolutely
right.
Like,
there's a lot of people that are doing things, and not only that, like, Israel's policy. I realized this the other day when I was reading up on it. Israel's ideology is the right word, is Zionism, which is the concept that the Jews will one day have a country of their own, and the philosophy of that country will be Judaism. And that's what Israel is. Like, their religion goes hand in hand with their government. They have no separation of state and church. And so a lot of, like, whatever happens, like, religiously is also an offense to them. And that's not simple because we don't think that way. You know what I mean? We separate church and state. So, like, we can easily jump on one bandwagon and not be on the other. But for them, it's just like, no, if, like, you're either with us or you're not. And so it's not easy to do little things like that, like the pro this, pro that, because you have no idea how you're going to affect them or how you're going to be viewed by them.
100%. But I have a question for you, both of you then. So we can agree on the virtue signaling and all that stuff, but at what point do we start to care about the intent of the person if the message is still there? Like, I already said what I thought Kyrie did was stupid or whatever. It's not the time or the place for that. But, like, even the people virtual signaling on the internet or their social media, right? If they're just trying to bring light to something, maybe misinformed, maybe one side or the other, but that's just how the world is. So if you're taking the biases out of each side and whatever side people are trying to virtue signal for, if they're not saying anything negative, how much should we let it bother us?
So is your question, when do we look at intent or when do we let it bother us?
Well,
like, it's kind of the same thing.
I mean,
like,
you're going to have...
You know what I'm saying? Like, when does it become an issue for...
I feel like as an Americans, even though there's a history behind it, I guess for me, the cutoff point is when you start choosing a side and being an advocate of that side. It's like, you're an American, you're not Israeli, you're not Palestinian. Like, I understand you might have an opinion about it based off what's going on, but you shouldn't be being an outspoken person about that particular side. Like, I don't know, that just seems a little too much. Like, bring awareness to it, but keep your particular choice in the side you support, I guess, on the back burner. Like, you don't need to be like, I'm a pro-Palestinian, this is the things going on with Palestine, like, blah, 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 Israel, negative, bad this, like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you're an American, chill out. Why? Like, yeah, it's bad. Like you said, it's sad.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need to let it affect you to the degree that's making you actually sad.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's where, for me, it's like, what are you?
I mean, that makes sense.
What are you doing? Like, yeah, exactly. Like, what are your intentions here? Like, do you want to make me sad? Do you want to motivate me to go over there? Like, what do you want at this point? Like, what do you want?
Talk.
Yeah.
100%.
I also think there's a conflict in the way that like the social platforms are doing the whole link to charity groups and stuff like that, and link to this stuff, because in the eyes of the Israeli, when you support money to give to the Palestinian charities, you're giving that money to terrorist groups. Yeah, and so it's very conflicting to be like, oh, I thought I was just, giving them aid. Like, I was just helping them out. And they're like, yeah, you are giving aid, but you're giving aid to a terrorist group. It's the equivalent to them, of us sharing links on Instagram to give aid to Al Qaeda. And like other, like, you know what I mean? Like other things that could happen like that, like 9/11. Like, you're supporting that. You're funding it. And so it makes it a little bit harder to go like, oh, okay, let me just share these links to these groups, especially if you don't understand the conflict.
For me personally, when it becomes a problem is when you're trying to invoke anything from me. Like, that's my cutoff point. So you can virtue signal all you want. If I can scroll past it and I can just keep it pushing, I'm not going to get mad that you posted something. I don't even care if you pick a side, to be honest with you. That's the world. Like, people pick sides. Like, so I have to, like, just be okay with people picking sides. That's how it works. But the second you're telling me something, or I see you're putting something out purely to invoke something from as a response, not to be seen, but to get a response, that's when I'm like, nope, I'm good. I don't even care what side you're on, right or wrong. I honestly don't. Nope, because if you dig deep enough, everybody's going to be wrong. If you dig deep enough, everybody's eventually right. So, no, I'm good on stuff like that.
I feel like this particular situation going on, too, is just so
complex
and layered that we shouldn't even be getting too involved when it comes to our opinions, because, like Doc pointed out, if you donate to a charity for the Palestinian group, the Israelis see it as you're giving money to their enemy, to a terrorist group, and then now they're not looking at it kindly. It's just like, it's snowball effects, it's domino effects. It's like, why are we playing with dominoes?
And especially as an American company, you have to be really, really careful, because, like I said,
like IGN,
there's a large influx of Americans or African Americans becoming Muslim, becoming Islamic. Because most African countries started Islamic, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think we've hit a state in the world where we're just so interconnected, where it's just like,
that's why you got to be careful, because then we have large Jewish communities in America.
Now we actually have to think about how we interact with the planet.
And this is the funny thing is, this is what we wanted too. People want a world. I want to say a world government, but they want some kind of world society, I guess.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, you got to understand, when it comes with the world society, there's now more responsibility. There are things, like, they have their spot in the world, and you could say something based off your spot in this side of the world that could affect them, influence them, bother them. Like, yeah, we have free speech, but sometimes some things don't need to be said.
Make sure this mic facing the right way. Well, everybody like talking, don't they? Oh, dumbass. Everybody dumb. Everybody's really, I won't say dumb. Everybody just, like I said, we greet each other with our insecurities. And I think it's on a global level, too. Countries, same way. We interact with our insecurities first, and we want those things to be coddled so we can feel comfortable. Oh, we're scared you might do this. I need you to do this to make me feel this way. That is the craziest combination. But hey, man, got whole societies built off this shit. Not going to bring up the fucking Vatican. Not going to bring that up again.
Council of Nicaea. Any last thoughts before we transition? Now we got that out of the way.
My only thought is, like, what would the UN do? So Israel has already stated, I mean, they might walk it back, but they've already stated that they're not going to let up after Hamas has asked for peace. And so
we're going to pay them.
I kind of wonder, like, the UN was trying to start a a ceasefire like negotiations with the U.S. ambassador like in the middle, or leading the charge, I guess. And if they say no, what can the UN do to stop them? Like,
Nothing.
are we gonna have to invade Israel, or are we gonna have to
No.
like forcibly stop their hand? Like,
We're
it's
gonna pay them.
as far as now in the region, it's a modernized nation. Like, it can defend itself from larger groups and stuff like that. It's just why it's willing to, I think, wipe out this portion of Palestine. So I don't know. Like, I don't think the UN has ever had to like discipline one of their own, and I think that's weird. I don't know what they can do.
I told you, they not gonna do it aggressively. Israel means so much to the UN, dude, and they understand that their leverage. I don't want to be racist here, and I'm not gonna try and sound racist at any cost of anything. But every Jewish friend I've known has been good with leverage, and I don't think they're dumb. I think they understand the position they're in, just like Doc said, and so pay me. UN, pay me. Whether it's agriculture, whether it's food, whether it's this, gold, this, that. Israel will be making some demands. The ceasefire, the negotiation, they don't need to negotiate with Palestine. They really need to negotiate with us, the UN. That's the real person, the people they have to negotiate with. What Palestine got to say? What? We gonna stop shooting?
Do it.
Like what? We take half your strip if we want to on Wednesdays. Just throw parties on your strip on Wednesdays if we want to. That's how superior they are. So no, you're gonna pay them. This whole thing, the conflict's been over. Now Israel's trying to figure out what they can get.
Hey, thanks for watching a clip of Fake Deep Thinking. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe, like the clip, leave a comment, and check out our page for more content. Full episodes of Fake Deep Thinking are released every Friday on Podbean, iTunes, and Spotify. Peace.